Well, I'm glad you can make it for this one. But yeah, I do save like all the past streams, and I'll probably port them over onto YouTube, so at least they stay there. So I don't think I can keep them indefinitely here yet. I'm not sure. Still learning about Twitch, so right now I'm just working out some little thumbnails real quick. I don't always do thumbs for everything, but when I want it to be a lot more designed, then that's usually where I'll work out the thumb. Yeah, I think like once I get to the whatever affiliate or partner levels, then yeah, I know some of that stuff changes. So for now, I figure I'll probably just port things over to YouTube, though I think there's a 3-hour limit for those, so I have to be mindful of that if I want to bring them over, but so far so good. Let me know if the music is good, if it's too loud, if it's not loud enough. Yes, RDR is always good. This is probably the most played album in my library. I know it was a couple years ago, which means it's only it's only way more than that now. I just keep looking to see when they're going to make the second one available, the second soundtrack, because I'm almost more excited for that than for the game, and only because I don't have a whole lot of time to play games anymore, unfortunately. But I can always listen to music. Sorry, we're going to go for a super impractically clothed elf warrior girl because, you know, that's kind of my jam on Instagram. And I mostly just got into it because I'm usually doing these as warm-ups before work, and I just don't have enough time to design like a really cool outfit. As much as I love doing that, I actually really love fashion design. But I don't always have time to do that, so still got to get a warm-up sketch in. Thus, they end up not wearing a whole lot. What are you gonna do? Embrace it. That's what I say. Yeah, I thought they would bring it out soon too, the second Red Dead soundtrack. The first one came out like, I want to say a couple months before the game did. So I was hoping they would do that with this, but I think with the first game they just didn't think it was going to be as big of a success as it was. So they were just kind of like, hey, here you go. Here, guys. And not so much with the second one, obviously. I never played that one, but I like that line of thought. I figure, like, you just have to be a super badass to not have to wear any armor, right? Like, that was always my justification. Like, the more armor you have, the more it's just going to weigh you down. So if you're a speed fighter, then you don't want a whole lot of armor. So that's also why, as some weird little part in my brain that's like, well, it's got to make a little bit of sense. I always give them like really slim or, you know, quick weapons. Because, you know, that explains it all. I might be overthinking this a little too much. I'm really just wanting to draw something that has some cool shapes and, you know, has like kind of a good silhouette value, because sometimes silhouette is everything. Exactly. Only if you're gonna get hit do you need armor. That was always kind of my when I used to do a lot of martial arts when I was younger, and I would spar sometimes with this guy who was just way bigger than me. At the time, I was really slim. I was probably, I was like 6 foot, 6'1", and maybe like 140 pounds or something. And I would spar against this guy who was like 6'4", I think, and he weighed about 230. And yeah, so I just couldn't get hit. Even in a sparring match, I was like, yeah, I don't want to get hit by that guy. So I was always dancing around, like keeping out of his way and just hoping that he would tire out first. But of course, he trained just as hard as me, so he was super fit. But it was really good practice. But, you know, he was big enough to where is like, if it was some kind of an actual fight, it wouldn't matter if I had armor on. He would destroy me if I got hit by him. So, at a certain point, it's like, armor's just gonna be a placebo, right? If, like, with one hit, someone could just take you out. So why bother? Just go into battle naked, like the Celts. Not all of them, the Picts. Hell, even the Vikings would sometimes do that, just to, like, scare the enemy. So I have some justification for it. What's annoying is, like, I'm liking kind of the torque in this pose. Just that second leg. I actually don't use reference for most of my personal drawings, unless I'm gonna like go heavy into like a full illustration, you know, where I'm really gonna have to like render some stuff out, in which case I usually I want to at least know that I know what I'm doing, so I will look at reference beforehand, but I usually put it away when I actually start drawing or painting, because I don't want it to be like, say, right off a photo, because I know a lot of people don't really think about it, but for me, like, I look at so much stuff online that half the time someone draws something, it'll be like some fantasy piece or whatever, and I know exactly which photo they used for their figure, to reference their figure. And like, that's a place I never want to be in. If I need like some really heavy photo reference, then I want to shoot the reference myself, so that at least I know that I'm working off of my own, that it's 100% my own, that I'm not, you know, ripping off someone else's picture or something like that. So and in terms of the job, I do use reference when I'm at work, because what I do at work is I help design movie posters, right? So that's all based on live action, actual actors. So I have to use reference because I need the likeness in the sketch. So in which case, yeah, at work I'm always using reference because I don't have a choice. Granted, after, you know, the 10th sketch of drawing someone, I can usually, by that time, I don't need as much reference because I understand their features a bit more, so I can draw them to a degree from my head, but I still need to check it and make sure that I'm on point with it. And yeah, you mentioned Frazetta. I mean, he was such a huge influence on me, just from my teenage years on. And I would always read these stories and stuff of how, like, he didn't use any reference. Of course, now we know that's not true. He did, and he would shoot his own reference. But at the time, there was this, really prevailing myth that he didn't use any. So that's what I practiced doing all the time, was just like, how accurate can I make this out of my head? And I would just render the hell out of pencils out of my head all the time, and just keep working at it. If something wasn't right, I would erase it and just keep redoing it until it looked right. Which of course helped me immensely in the long run. But then it also got me, like, I don't know. I don't want to say a little lazy, but a little lazy. In that I'm like, I don't want to look for reference. I'm just going to make it up. I've had to kind of battle against that and work my way out of doing that a little bit. Which is good. I think I've found a healthy balance now. That's what we want in life, right? Balance. Okay, I'm liking this. I don't really want to sit there overthinking this too much, because it's not that kind of a sketch. Right? This is something where I really... There are times that, especially with ink, there are times that I really just want to get into the mark making. It doesn't always matter, like, what I'm drawing, though most of the time I try and at least, like, come up with some kind of a little narrative just for myself. So I have some kind of context for why someone might be doing something. I won't lie, in this case, I don't have a context, except that it's like some hot elf warrior girl that's about to lay down the law on someone. I don't know why. They pissed her off in some way. Shame on them. So there's something in there that I'm digging. I'm just gonna set that aside and work in my bigger moleskin. I have, like, I think I actually have all size moleskins right here. We've got the littlest one, we have the next one, we have the next size up, and then we have the giant one. That's fun. And I'm just using the giant one right now because I just want a little more breathing room around the image. Like, I love... Let's get that out of the way. Maybe. I really like how this turned out, but I wish it had a little more breathing room around it. So that's why I figured, you know what? Let's work in the big one for this. Why not use a mechanical? Sometimes a mechanical pencil just digs in a little too much, so if I know I'm going to erase, then I'll usually just use I'll either do it with graphite, or sometimes I'll use coal erase, because sometimes I like the look of the color of the coal erase with the black ink, but in this case, I don't want that, so it's just a 2B. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you're digging the art. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I've known quite a few people that kind of arrived at art later, and a lot of them have ended up doing some pretty amazing stuff just because they, you know, really applied themselves and took it seriously. And I do feel like a lot of it can be learned. It just takes time. Sometimes a lot of time. And especially now, I mean, there's so many avenues available for learning art. So many cool online courses and schools, and that it sucked because they really started popping up like maybe partway through or even just after like I graduated from art school. Might have been nice if they'd been around before all the student loan debt. Whatever. Yeah, you know, I haven't really had an issue with the Stetlers. Like, yeah, sometimes you'll get that hard spot, but when I'm doing a rough like this, I'm not digging in. Like, I'm almost letting the weight of the pencil do the mark, so it doesn't matter as much. But one thing that I really like about them, that I always liked about them, was the quality of the wood. The wood always like keeps, I don't know, it just stays really smooth. I mean, it also makes a difference if you have like a good sharpener. And I use the X-Acto Magnum because it gives a nice taper, nice point to it. And that makes a big difference, especially because I, do a lot of drawing with Prismacolors, so that sharpener is like everything. Being able to get like that kind of a point on a Prismacolor is pretty awesome. So, the X-Acto Magnum, I recommend it. At some point, I'll get around to putting some affiliate links to my gear. Haven't done that yet. Of course, this is the danger, right? I'm like, oh, I want more breathing room around my drawing, and I just end up drawing larger because I have a bigger piece of paper. So I don't know if I achieved my goal. Fail. That's okay. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you got accepted in. Which art school are you going to? And by the way, New Masters is killer. Steve Houston, I mean, his sketchbooks are absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah, I mean, every page is like this little masterpiece. It's kind of annoying. But so cool. Oh, right on. I hear good things about SCAD. Trying to think if I've known anyone that went there. I can't think of someone off the top of my head, but advice for the field, it kind of depends on what you're looking to go into, to be honest. Each field has its own little quirks and pitfalls and specialties and all that stuff. I had initially wanted to go into character design for film, but quickly found that by the time I was getting into it, the industry was changing and going all digital, and I really wanted to draw. You know, I didn't want. I mean, I love doing the digital stuff too, but I didn't want to just be sitting in front of the computer. So, you know, I kind of switched it up, because my initial inspiration for character design was like Ian McCaig's work and, you know, the art of Star Wars Episode 1. I was absolutely floored by his pencils. It's like, I want to do that. And then, of course, by the time I was getting into it, it changed. Yay. So that's actually why I was actually still gonna do concept design. I was gonna go into doing stuff for games. Had a job lined up just before graduating, and then the studio closed down about a month before I graduated, I think. So that fell through. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll try advertising, because, you know, I can still draw and it's really fast turnaround, which is kind of what I like. And that's what I've been doing ever since, for like almost 10 years. This is too... Any inking tips? I don't want to say no inking tips. Only because, and it's not entirely true. Yes, I could give you some inking tips, but it depends on what you like and what you're going for. Because I could say, oh, be direct, because that's the type of stuff that I like. That's what I like to do. But at the same time, there are a lot of really good people that have a more kind of searching way of doing inks, and it turns out amazing. So, you know, I can't say like, hey, do it this way. I really like being direct with my inks, so I'll approach it in different ways, right? There are times that I will do... I'll leave my pencils really really loose, and so that I'm actually having to still figure things out, make things up with the inks, and I really enjoy that process. It just kind of forces you to be direct, and that's a lot of fun. But then other times, like with this, I want the shape to be more designed. So, so then I will flesh out the pencils a little more, at least insofar as figuring out the basic shapes. You know, I won't figure out every little detail with the pencils, but I want to get the basic shapes down. So that the design is strong, hopefully. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's funny, because sometimes this part of the process, this will take longer than the actual inks. And you shouldn't be scared by Inktober, by the way. Because some people take it way too seriously, I think. And start thinking like they have to do it in a certain way. And they even say, like, I think in the guidelines on INKtober.com, they even say, like, you don't have to do it every day. It's not like there's a punishment. It's more about sticking to a schedule, which I think is important for anyone that wants to be a professional. You have to get used to being dependable. Ideally, you would do it every day, because that's what you have to do as a pro, right? You're drawing every day, and even on those days where you're just not quite feeling it, you still have to go to work and rock it, you know, knock it out of the park. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out a little more interesting way. I think I want to tilt her hips, because one of the hey, Ari Plays, welcome. I'm glad you love drawing. I love drawing too. So yeah, I wanted to tilt her hips because I want her to feel off balance, right? Because that's where movement happens. If you get someone, even if they're in the air and they're perfectly balanced, they'll feel static. So you just want to be aware. These lines are messing with me. Be aware, if you want movement, then one of the best ways to do that is to get them off balance a little bit. Debating how much of this I want to correct in the ink and how much I want to be figured out first. Get that leg higher up. That's feeling a little better. the hard part sometimes when you work in a job where you have to knock stuff out fairly quickly is that you can sometimes just grow impatient as an artist. So I'm constantly kind of struggling with that to kind of fight against it a little bit, because I don't want to. I want to be able to slow down, take my time when I have the opportunity, right? Because otherwise you just get used to doing everything really quickly, and then you take things to a certain point, and then you don't know where to go from there. So, that's one of the reasons why, even though I was getting really into drawing just direct in ink, I also wanted to kind of remind myself that it's like, wait a second, like, slow down, design something, and see what more finished inks might look like from me, you know? That sword's gonna get hidden. I don't want that. Patrick Jones. I don't know if I know Patrick Jones. Or I might know his work. I'll have to check it out. There we go. I'll get into the inks pretty quick here. And some of this stuff I want to leave to chance, which is maybe a little risky, but we'll see. I'm not totally sold on that angle. Subtle head tilt. Gotta get it right. I think I might keep her more just straight on, since we've got kind of a nice tilt in the torso. Anatomy of Style. I feel like I've seen that. I'll have to check it out. I'm sure I've seen his work. The name just isn't. You know how we artists are. We're visual people. Although I'm usually pretty good with artist names. But it also depends on how long ago I last saw their work, and is it something I still look at, and all that. Yeah, let's get some extension in that arm. That's more fun. This is like the opposite of normal clothing. It exposes everything people normally cover up. Oh well. She doesn't care. Just wanted to extend that leg a little bit more. I think because we've throwing shit around, might not curve that so much. So that's going like, let's see. Do I have a favorite piece that I've ever done? I don't think so. And like, in a sense, you know, oftentimes when I do something when it's brand new, if it is something that I'm proud of, then you know it's like maybe it's my favorite piece for a week or two. But again, I mean, I'm drawing every day, pretty much. I don't always draw on Sundays, just because usually I'm with my girlfriend, but she's out of town. So I'm hanging out with you guys, and that's fun too. But I did notice that there were times I would draw something, and you know it's brand new, and I really like it, and then someone asks, "Is it for sale?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And then I send it off, and then I get like kind of anxiety because it's brand new. I didn't really have time to sit with it, and so now I don't sell pieces when they're hot off the drawing board anymore. I have to wait. Once in a while I might, but generally, I have to kind of wait and get used to them and make sure that I've gotten what I need to out of them. Favorite books for drawing? That's a good question. I think it depends on what it is I'm looking to get out of it. As far as her foot turned like that. If I'm really looking for something to learn, I guess I don't really get instructional books much anymore, because most of them are covering things that are maybe more, little more basic than what I'm looking for. It's not to say that they're not great books, anything by Andrew Loomis, of course, because he's so good at putting that stuff into words. Also, there's a book called Rendering in Pen and Ink by Guptill, Guptill. I think it's out of print, but you can still get it on Amazon. And I mean, it's awesome because he kind of covers just about every mark you could want to make in pen and ink. It's in that book, and he explains it and talks about it. So that's pretty rad. But I feel like these days, for the most part, if I'm looking at wanting to kind of learn something new in drawing, I'll usually get books that are just, showing the art of some awesome artist, because I know I can look at that and kind of figure out what they're doing and how they're doing it, So, and I feel like these days, I tend to learn mostly by doing. So I kind of just get books because I like the art, and then sometimes I'll learn something from it, looking at it over and over and over. I mean, anything by Sean Gordon Murphy. I mean, his inks are just phenomenal. And I wonder if I might zoom in on this a little bit for you guys, since she ended up being fairly compact. So just bear with me here. We'll zoom in. We'll just have to refocus a little bit. Might be a little too much. So see if this will. There we go. All right. zoomed in there. I don't know why I thought I needed the whole page. It's her head was looking just a little too big. But like just the tiniest bit. Alright, let's ink this. I'm just trying to decide if I want to do brush pen or India ink. Nice thing with India ink is then it's waterproof, and if I wanted to throw watercolor on it, I could, but I don't think I want to worry about that. So let's do brush pen. And then I'll probably throw some fountain pen in there for some details. This is my usual. Sorry, I just want to check that not a lot of ink left. Good thing I checked that. Let's grab see if I can find an ink cartridge. Ink cartridge. I know there's some ink, but I'm just gonna put a new cartridge in regardless. I don't want to have to think about it. Never take the ink cartridge out over your drawing. Oftentimes you can just get drops of ink popping out of it. Or when you pop a new cartridge in, if it wants to go in. There we go. I could put some platinum, but I don't actually. It flows a little different. It's not quite as heavy as the stuff that is made for this one. Though I do have it in another brush pen. But I like this stuff. But I was still happy with it. I think I have it in another Kaime. I have it in this one, the natural hair, long-handled Kaime brush pen. I love these things, and I love that they have more of like a sumi brush handle. But they don't fit as conveniently in a pocket as this one does. So all right, let's get into this. I don't think I've ever used Sailor inks. But this stuff is marker proof. Marker actually, like, you can use that with a lot of inks. Because it's solvent based, and the solvent doesn't tend to mess with inks as much as like water does. So like I can use, this thing is way too much flow right now. I can use marker with this, but I can't use water. Right, water will just smear it around. I mean, I can, and I do sometimes. I like kind of messing with it and seeing what kind of effects I can get with the water. A little bit of wash. One thing with how I tend to use a brush pen is it is a good song. Is I like to use the natural shape of the brush, to my advantage. Just the tapers, the kind of elongated triangle shapes that you can get with it are pretty awesome. Debating if I want earrings on her. All right, well, I'm glad you could jump on. Yeah, check it out later. It'll be up. One thing I always have to be mindful of course, is if I'm going to move over to the left side of my drawing to make sure that stuff's dry. So many times I'll just start drawing and I'll look and I've like tracked ink across. So sometimes I'll make it a point to just start on the upper left and work my way down to the bottom right. Which I probably should have done and could have, because it's just like hair. But oh well. get a braid in here. Or at least, you know, something that's supposed to be a braid.
Now I know the only compass that I need is one.
I should make it a point to just have like a little hair dryer here so I can just quickly dry everything. Just speed up the process where I can.
Back to you, and the burning blisters on my feet will call to hold me as I'm close to fall. Away from the warmth of your arms I stray, off the radar and into harm's way. Now I know the only compass that I need is the one that leads back to you. Yeah, coffee waves the hand again, coaxing letters from the pen, but words just sit like empty scribbles, such empty caffeinated riddles. Now I know the only compass that I need is the one who's back to you. Now I know the only compass that I need is the one who's back to you.
One thing I like about the live streaming versus, you know, throwing up the time lapses on Instagram is that you can really see the choices that someone's making. And it doesn't have to be a live stream, but it's more just having that real-time video, because I feel like time lapse is so misleading. It makes it look way the hell easier than it is. People always say how effortless they look, and I'm like, well, yeah, because an hour or whatever was condensed into a minute, and you can't show the struggle. But we all know the struggle is real. Nice. I bet they make like a harmonica mount for your phone, and you could just stream it on your phone with a harmonica mount right in front of your face everywhere you walk. Don't do that. People will think you're weird. And I would have to blame myself. Yeah, I remember a little while back, like, I was getting really into just watching all these time lapses, and it was partly because I, couldn't find real-time videos of all the stuff I wanted, and it was weird how it was affecting me, because then even when I was like shooting stuff that was going to be time-lapsed, and I found myself like trying to work faster as though somehow that time lapse was gonna like happen in real time, and it was just totally fucking with me, which is why I started posting those little like minutes of zen on Instagram, was to remind myself but also everyone else that it's like, oh, wait a second, no, you gotta slow down and do this stuff right, otherwise you'll just fuck it up potentially. And there's something nice too about just, I don't know, something kind of meditative about, not kind of, very meditative about taking your time on this stuff.
And the wind blows free. And when I die, don't bury me 'neath the western sky on the lone prairie. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie. These words came soft and painfully from the pallid lips of a youth who lay on his dying bed at the break of day. But we buried him.
I did receive it, and it's amazing. I wish it was more than just the first two issues of Tokyo Ghost. Like, I want them to put all 7, like a hardcover at 11 by 17. It's phenomenal. So much fun to look at.
'Neath the western sky.
I feel like there are some people, and he's one of them, where they should just release all his stuff that way as an option. Like, they actually did a really good job on the color in that one. I feel like Sean Murphy's work is really tricky to color right. You know, where it's like the color is still adding something to it, but not fucking up his amazing inks. And they did a really good job, which was pretty rad to see. But I would love to, have all 7 issues done like that. That would be amazing. Come on, Image, get on it. Yeah, a lot of people think that speed makes you better, and it's not true. And even, like, you know, there are people that think, oh, if you can draw it direct in ink or whatever and never erase, that somehow means you're better. And I mean, it takes a different kind of skill, certainly, but you know, we can't all be Grandmaster Kim Jong-il, right? But you know, on that note, like, you look at Sean Murphy's work, and like, no one thinks anything less of it because he pencils first. Like, his stuff's amazing, no two ways about it. Just his comfort level with the inks is pretty phenomenal. So I think whatever gets us to a good end result, and hopefully the end result that we want, that's what it takes, you know? I think I was talking yesterday about how it took me a little while when I was first kind of digging into watercolors to get used to the fact that they don't take as long as oils, and I had to, just forgot her thumb there, I had to kind of give myself permission to be done with watercolor in, like, you know, 40 minutes sometimes. You know, it wasn't like a crazy fleshed out piece, it was just you know, might just be a single figure, but the way that I was using them was simplified, right? Whereas with oils, like, it would take so much longer, and I had it in my head that it had to, and then vice versa, right? Like, I'll get so used to doing things quickly in pencils or inks or whatever, and then feel like I have to move that way on everything, which is why these days I've just made it a point to just try and slow down. And let myself enjoy the process a bit more. Yeah, it's true. A lot of people, you know, I think it's just when you're actually watching the process, you know, that's the only time that people really care. That's also one of the reasons I don't like to post the process for everything, although I do post a lot of process videos, I won't lie. Welcome, Skeptic 666. I wouldn't say finally, because I haven't really been streaming that much, but I'm going to. Since I finally have a good setup for it. It took a little while. I was doing a lot of research, and I'd look at people's setups, but they weren't good for art, for drawing. They couldn't capture the really fine lines that I needed them to be able to capture. Right? It was just too, I don't know, it'd be too clunky. You know, like a setup that might be good for vlogging or something just wasn't gonna work for me. And I'm very picky about how how it's depicted. I mean, if I had my way, obviously it would look like a pre-recorded video, but oh well. Technology's not quite there yet. Or my budget's just not quite there yet. Maybe a little bit of both. Because if I could live stream in 4K, I would. I would pay those internet fees. I do the same thing. I'll watch tutorials, or sometimes I'll watch, I'll watch people live stream, or, I mean, not watch, but I'll put it on while I'm drawing, and I don't know, I like that. We're listening to the soundtrack of Undead Nightmare, for anyone who doesn't know. My favorite whiskey, oh, that's a tough one. I think it depends on what I'm doing. Actually, no, that's not a tough one. Lagavulin 16, hands down, my favorite. As far as just a scotch that I can have anytime, anywhere. But, that being said, if I wanted to, say, make a cocktail or something, I'm not going to use Lagavulin. Although I bet it would make a pretty fantastic cocktail, like a really good Rob Roy. So it depends. If I'm making cocktails, I like rye. I like rye whiskey a lot. I love the High West Double Rye. Definitely one of my absolute favorites. I like pretty much anything Lagavulin does. I like everything that Glenmorangie does. Their stuff's fantastic. They recently brought out the Spios, which is like one of their traditional scotches, but it's finished in American, or fully matured, I think, in American rye casks. and it's fantastic. If you've ever had Glenmorangie anything, it has kind of their classic flavor with the spiciness of the rye, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Sorry for anyone that's not a whiskey fan. I can geek out on that stuff quite a bit. That's why it's dangerous for me to watch Deadwood, because they're just putting back whiskey all the time, and then all of a sudden I feel like I should be putting back whiskey with them. First world problems. I'm not sure why I'm detailing some of this stuff out, because I might just end up making it like black, but at least I have that option. Welcome Acoustic. And thank you. And yes, Seek LG, it is delicious. Which one? The Spios, I'm assuming, is fantastic. I recently got one that's a whiskey from Japan. That's it's from Okinawa, actually. And I didn't know that they have peat bogs in Okinawa. So it's a Japanese whiskey, but with the peaty flavor of an ILS Scotch. And it's awesome. Really good. And for what it is, I was actually surprised. I thought it was a reasonable price. I just don't remember the name. I'm like talking about this really awesome Scotch, but I couldn't tell you what it is. Shit. Just waiting for this to dry before I tackle those swords, because I need to be able to slide my hand very steadily, and I don't want to smear that stuff. Although I kind of might use a fountain pen for those. Maybe. I got an idea. Simple solve, right? Well, the nice thing with the fountain pen is that the one that I use has a ton of flex to it, so I can still get nice line variety. It's dried out a little. Almost dry. I can see this like little bead of. There we go. Let's get this underneath, or just flat. All right. Yeah, this is just personal. I do work for a studio. I actually work for an ad agency. I'm the illustration director there at an ad agency in Hollywood. We do movie posters, TV posters, some video game covers. So what I do is basically when they don't have photos to build concepts, then we in the illustration department sketch out ideas in pencil usually. Sometimes we'll do stuff digitally, but this piece of paper is annoying me. But a lot of it's just pencil on paper, which is nice. So we'll get to draw on paper for a living, and that's rad. So yeah, this is just personal. Pretty much everything I post online is just personal stuff. It's not actually what I do for work, with the exception of like a few posters that I have put up. Like I did the IMAX poster for Justice League. I did some of the homage posters for Ready Player One. They weren't my concepts, but I had helped illustrate them. Done some Simpsons posters in the past. Those were fun. We did that fine art series. So I got to turn the Simpsons into like a Mondrian and a Rothko and some others. That was a lot of fun. Silly. But it worked out so well because I'm like, well, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about modern art. So it makes sense. Yes, we do have fun. Everyone say hi to Arthur Kell, fellow illustration director at Bond. Now I am gonna get into some heavier blacks as well, but I like to mix. I almost always use at least two different pens because it's different line variety. Now this you could do with a dip pen as well, right? Like it's one of these. This one is a G nib, but I ground it down. I just took a normal sharpening stone that you would use for a knife, a fine grit one, and I just ground it down so that I can get finer lines than what I could normally get with a G nib. So it works really nicely, so you could do it with that. don't need a super expensive fountain pen for that. But because I have it, I'm gonna use it. Because flying hare is not complete without flyaways. And there is something else I was going to use this for, and I don't remember what it is. Shit. Unless it was literally just the flyaways, that's all I wanted it for. But this will also get a nice variety of line. Actually, because I really like the graphic design. Let's put these thumbnails away, we don't need these. Because I like the graphic design of this piece, right? So I want to get some of those heavy blacks into here as well. So let's... I know, Autumn, you and Ashley were talking about my elf titties, and then I felt bad that I didn't have any on my Twitch, so I had to remedy that. Although I think Ashley was talking about the bigger ones. Whatever. Problem solved. I like what the oils from your hand can do to the ink sometimes. Use whatever you have at your disposal. And of course, half the time you discover this stuff, because it happens when you don't want it to happen. But then you have to file it away and be like, okay, wait, what caused that? And how can I do that again when I want to? Sometimes doing something like this is just kind of like the murder your darlings idea in writing, because you'll do a mark or a line and it's awesome, but you're like, no, that's not my intention. My intention is to cover it up. It's cool. We've got fun marks in the hair that will leave. Thanks for joining, Everreal. Glad you could make it. Yeah, the rest of the video will be up. Who knows what we're going to do after this. I don't even know how long I've been streaming for. When did I start? At 2? Okay. Going almost a couple hours. Gotta be careful, because this actually doesn't dry as fast as India ink does. So normally, like if I'm doing heavy blacks in India ink, I mean it dries quick. Good for the art, bad for the brush. Alright, Undead Nightmare. I love you, but we're gonna switch. Name that tune. Do the silhouette. One more chance. Turn it up for you guys. No? Nothing? Yes. Slayer. Assassin's Creed Revelations. There are times you do want to smudge the ink. Just like in movie posters, we love our sparks. We can fake some of that, get that same effect. Wait, markers that did bleed or did not bleed? And what specifically did you want them for? Sorry, I had to cover it up for a second. I don't have Zipatone, so I had to kind of fake it. It's a fun one. You know what I'm kind of missing? I like trailing dangly bits. Just don't know. where, let's see. Thanks, Kret. Thanks for joining. Glad you could check it out. I will be back on tomorrow as well. Just not totally sure what time yet. Thanks, Darius. It was really just about that, since obviously it wasn't about any kind of practical stuff. Alright, I think we'll call that one done. I haven't really set up any kind of a raid system yet, so I can't really send you guys off anywhere. Since Autumn's not streaming, he's watching me. Autumn. But yeah, thanks for joining me. There's a chance I might pop back on later if I think of something that I want to stream, but for now, I might try and get some real life stuff done. Maybe it would be a good thing. Can't be all art all the time, right? Unfortunately. I wish it could be. I do my best. Anyway, thanks, guys. Yeah, and it's only 4 o'clock, so there's a good chance I'll be back on. And hopefully I can give y'all a heads up on that. But it might be a spur of the moment thing. Keep your eyes out. What else is there to do on a Sunday? Like, really? Have some scotch and draw. So maybe I will see you guys for happy hour. Yeah, I don't mind the sound of that. All right. Peace.